So you guys can see in the back of the video here, this is me trying to play a game on the PTR. Now you'll notice there's a bit of a problem. There seems to be over 10-minute queues for each of the separate roles. And that's just, well, that's the PTR because nobody plays on it. So this got me thinking, what actually is wrong with the PTR? What is the point of the PTR? And how could they make this better? And I've got Josh joining me with this video. Hello, Josh. Hello. But I'm going to carry on talking, so you shut your mouth, Josh. These are my notes, right? So I'm just going to blast you guys with these notes on this, and then we're going to discuss this because this is something I think Blizzard really need to look at. So, of course, the first note is what is the point of PTR? It's used to make sure the patch is technically sound, but without players, it can't really be stress testing, surely. And surely they already test to see if the patch is technically sound before they deploy to PTR. So where is the value there? We generally see loads of changes, but then we can't test them because there's no population. And then this makes it doubly frustrating because all these changes are on the PTR for weeks and weeks and weeks. Live is still the same old game. And that's, well, it makes the game feel like it's not being updated as much as maybe it actually is because of these longer PTR cycles. Why can't they just drop patches live? Would that really be that much of an issue? Maybe that would actually help them fix major problems faster. It could also, well, make balance kind of quicker, which I guess I did kind of touch a little bit earlier on. But then balance is super difficult, right? You can't just be like, oh yeah, let's throw out patches all the time, the game will be fine. It might end up like, I don't know, Fortnite, which is updated all the time, and there's like major problems, and then things have to be re-rolled, maybe, and then other things have to come out. So maybe that's what they're really worried about. But is that really any different than long PTR cycles? This is the big kicker, because, well, if it's on the PTR for ages and ages and ages, and then it goes live, and then we have a lot of problems which you can only work out when it's live because, well, we need population. This is the big issue with no population on PTR. We can't test this stuff. It's like, well, wouldn't that benefit it? It's just like, oh. But I guess there is a downside to this, right? And this is my final note. And yes, there could be a lot of game-breaking bugs we never actually know or we don't realize are there because they're getting fixed on the PTR. And Blizzard would never tell us, like, oh yeah, we've had 10 massive major game-breaking bugs in this PTR build. No, they just quietly fix them. And they can't do that if it goes live. And maybe that's their biggest worry. So, Josh, that is my torrent of my thoughts on PTR.
It's an interesting problem, and I think you touched on it there of like, why can't they just drop it live straight away? And I think you almost answered your own question where if there is a bug on the PTR, if there is an issue with the patch that, I don't know, causes someone's graphics card to explode, well, it's better to probably put it on the PTR first, where people know they're entering into a test area or it causes crashes or problems, rather than just like dump it live in the middle of a competitive season where people are playing and trying to get the rank and everyone's crashing and, oh no, it doesn't work, they've got to fix it. But the issue I think that we come up against as players is like, well, there's like balance changes. Oh, they're tantalizing, exciting new balance changes. Oh, is Dive coming back? Dive coming back on the current PTR? Oh, the patch is really interesting. I want to play the patch. And it feels like Blizzard are kind of there going, no, you can't. You can't get to play the new patch. You're playing the old patch. You're playing the old and busted patch that's less sexy and less hot. And you want the new one, but no, you can't have it yet. But what they're doing is hopefully fixing out all these technical issues. The perception, though, is that, oh, well, it's there to solve balance problems. And that, I think, is the flaw in the perception, right? That you've kind of highlighted it with the 10-minute queues. You cannot get a normal game of Overwatch on the PTR. The only time that happened was when role queue.
It's when it... Yeah, true. Or when a patch immediately goes live. So as soon as it goes live, there'll be population. See, this is the other thing, and I want you guys to answer this in the comments below. When was the last time you played on PTR? Like, even if you had a hardware configuration on PC that would cause your graphics card to explode, you don't even play on PTR anyway, so how would Blizzard find that information? Like, how would they get that feedback? Like, nobody plays on PTR, and this is a massive issue Blizzard have had forever. And I can remember years and years ago, we were talking about this. We're like, why is there no incentive to play on the PTR? And I remember, I think they even said things like, maybe we could give you XP, so if you earn the XP on the PTR, it gets added to your live account, or maybe they give you loot boxes or something. But I always keep coming back to this problem of the fact that the PTR is so glacially slow when it comes to pushing it to live. It means that it's even worse for players on live. Like, yeah, we've got these changes now. I mean, hell, these changes dropped like a week ago on PTR. The game is still the same because obviously it's not been pushed to live. But I can't actually test any of these changes out beyond literally reading the patch notes and going, oh, well, I think Tracer is now going to be really good because obviously she's got an increased range. Now, that's a simple statement to make because they've just upped her range before she's got damage fall off. So yes, in essence, she's better, right? Doomfist, he's got a nerf to the charge up time on Rocket Punch. So on paper, he is nerfed. But actually, how does that translate into the game? And then you've got other stuff like, why would Blizzard nerf a DPS who's actually the counter to the 2 meta tanks right now? Surely that would be weird. But we can make videos talking about that like I kind of am now and be like, oh, that seems weird. But actually, maybe that's a really good change, but we'll only know if we, can play it, and we can't play it. And it's like the biggest tragedy of PTR is you actually cannot play the changes. And it's over time, this is just becoming more and more frustrating to me because I want to make content on it. I want to talk about all these changes. I think there are 13 PTR changes. 13 balance changes here. It's crazy, but you just cannot test them. It's like the Winston one, right? Surely, Josh, you want to know how Winston will change now. He's essentially got, almost an Orisa barrier he can deploy.
Yeah, it's going to change.
I'm frustrated. You can probably tell in my voice I'm frustrated.
Yeah. And it's that feeling of like, man, these changes look good. Like, they look like the changes we want, but they're also not like massive changes. It's just like a bunch of relatively small changes that will have some impact.
So why does it need a PTR test?
Exactly. And so the PTR is like there, and it just feels like it's there for a long time, and it feels like it's there past its effective point as well. Like you said, when the PTR goes live, tons of people jump onto it. They all test the changes. You get a ton of content creators going on there as well, all want to test the changes. You get streamers going on there testing it. Pros go on there testing it, everything happens, and then about 3 days later, nothing. It's dead. It's a ghost town. You cannot play games on the PTR anymore without waiting for like half an hour, and you get a game that's really horrifically mismatched, and it just doesn't work and isn't useful to anyone. So at that point, it's like, well, why isn't there a faster rollout process for patches? And then you've got to kind of think, well, what is that process like? Is it the console approval process that's slowing it down? There's tons and tons of things up here behind the scenes that we don't consider, where it's like, oh, to get the patch to go live, they also have to go through this approval process to get it live on consoles at relatively the same time. All of this stuff also has to factor into it, because
I agree. I honestly agree with that, because this is a communication problem as well. Like, we don't know what is actually involved with pushing a patch to live. Like, all we can do is read the patch notes and go, okay, whatever, there's an update. Now, we do know that this update did feature a remaster of Overwatch, whatever the hell that means, right? So there might be loads of underlying things that do need to be fixed, do need to be tested. But this is just this patch. There's been loads of patches that have just been balance changes to heroes. And when they're tweaking, like you said, Josh, it's not exactly a major change, is it? Most of these changes are, I think all of them are just changes to numbers on a spreadsheet. It's like, okay, Winston's barrier, it's now better. Instead of 600, it's 700. Instead of lasting for 6 seconds, it lasts for 9 seconds. Now, surely changing those values will not make the game break. That's the problem I've got, right? I just can't see that breaking the game, but then maybe it does.
Yeah, it's from what I know from software development, you can change a number somewhere and it will break something, even as irrelevant as it seems.
So this is us being an idiot. Well, me being an idiot, anyway.
I'm kind of I'm illiterate, I suppose, in this sense as well. But I've heard enough stories of, I changed this unrelated thing, and suddenly changing how Tracer's range work broke the graphics somehow. It's just really unrelated things tend to mismatch, and so on, so on, so on. So it's like I'm sure there's a lot to it, but it all comes down to as well what we want out of the patch cycle, what we want out of the development cycle. When we see these changes, and when I saw this patch, it was like, man, this looks like a really good patch. Is this the only patch we're going to get for a month, 2 months? With BlizzCon looming, it's probably going to be the only patch we're going to get for a while. So it's like this patch is going to last for a good while. And it's like, well, there's a lot of minor changes in there, but I can't help but think there's a ton of different ways of balancing games. There's tons of different ways of doing it. Fortnite, really rapid patches, they just pump out. But then you have the Dota style, where in Dota, at the end of pretty much every season, they have this massive overhaul of the game that changes a ton of systems, adds in new systems, really rebalances the game and really changes it around. And it feels like for those sorts of patches, that's where you want a 1 week, 2 week, 3 week PTR cycle, where people can really test it and get used to the changes, adapt to it and be prepared for it when it comes live. When it's just we just tweaked this to go up a bit, tweak this to go down a bit, just get that. It feels like that needs to go on live relatively quickly. You give people some warning, hey, this is coming, these changes are coming. 3 days later, 4 days later, bang, get it on live. And then if you need further changes, well, get another patch, get it out quickly. And it's that turnover just feels so slow as a result, where it's a patch hits, we now got to wait a week, 2 weeks for it to last on PTR. And then we've got to wait 2-3 weeks for the next patch to hit PTR, and then 2-3 weeks for that patch to hit live, and it just feels, like you said, glacial, I think is the key word.
No, I agree with that. Like, they should have different classifications of patches. Like, you've got your balance patch, then you've got your major patches. So, yeah, fine. And sure, sometimes you'll have like a major patch, which, you know, potentially is a balance patch as well. I mean, when you look at the roll queue, that is a major patch. It's fine that being on PTR as long as it was. People were playing it because it was like a revolutionary new way to play Overwatch. Everybody wanted it. So, you know, I was just playing on PTR. I didn't care about live. It's like, screw live. I want to play on PTR. That is a major update. You can also argue as well, a new hero. That's a major update. You know, it needs to actually work. It needs to be tuned in some respects before they go onto live. Although you can look at Sigma and go, well, yeah, Sigma is overtuned and they're trying to bring him down. And you could argue that's probably the right way to do it. Instead of having like a really weak hero that nobody really looks at, like you've got one which is powerful, then you start reining him in, fine, whatever. But this patch, I look at it and it looks big. We've got a lot of changes. You know, we've got, what have we got? We've got D.Va, the defense matrix change, but it's such like regeneration rate goes up, but does it have a huge impact on the game? You'll never know until you get to play that. You've got Orisa with a protective barrier going down from 9 to 10 seconds. It's a 1 second nerf. It's probably not enough. I mean, I tell you what, just to finish this video off, this is what I would think when I look at these patch notes, right? So the D.Va one, I'm like, okay, whatever. Seems like a minor thing. Could be okay. Only really know if we're going to play. If we can play her. The Orisa 1 second off a barrier is like pointless to me. That just seems like such a minor change. I don't think it's going to make much difference. Rodog's scrap gun gets more ammo. Hey, that's good for Rodog. He's going to do more damage, but he's still in an annoying place because Sigma's better than Rodog. Then I go down to Sigma and I'm like, oh, okay. Kinetic grasp no longer blocks chain, hook, and whip shot. I agree with that. I think that should have been the case anyway. That's fine. Gravitic flux, the high gravity effect. Duration has been reduced from 1.2 to 0.9. That doesn't really seem that much. You know, that's probably slightly insignificant to me. Experimental barrier. This is the one that I do kind of like. The fact that there's a 1 second cooldown, so we can't just instantly recall the barrier. I think he needed that. It does make him feel a bit janky, though. I'm not going to lie, but whatever. Regeneration rate is been reduced as well on his barrier, so it doesn't recharge as fast. You know, and I could just go on through these changes. Yeah. And that is not what I want to do, because I'm just literally reading the thing and going, it either means this or that. I want to play it. I can play it on PTR. You know, there's probably guys watching this video going, well, Sty, just get people together and play on PTR. Yeah, sure. But that's not the live environment. So it's still an artificial test environment, and you never know. Like, I don't think there's ever been a point where we've looked at PTR and correctly predicted the meta. Never.
It's generally something surprising happens, or like one of those small changes generally has a bigger effect than you expect. And I'm sort of sat here thinking, like, are there solutions to this? And one of the ones that I've just come up with in my own head is like, well, what happens if you have a short cycle on PTR just to see for any like technical problems with the patch, or if they can solve any technical issues that come up, and then you bring the patch to live, but you say you only roll it out into, and you do the thing they do with new heroes, where they put it into quick play for a week, 2 weeks, and then it comes into competitive after that time period. So then you've got like a huge player base playing the patch, testing it out, seeing if anything is like, oh, is it Bastion Ironclad all over again? Is the Tracer buff like going to completely destroy the game? You find out very quickly, I'm sure, as people figure out, oh my god, Tracer's broken this patch. Oh my god, Bastion was broken on that patch. Oh my god, this is so overpowered. Oh my god, Sigma is unplayable now. Like, whatever happens. Oh, Doomfist just doesn't work anymore. You figure that out because you've got people playing the patch, and it doesn't go into people's ranked competitive experience and go, well, now you're just going to lose all this SR because we just did like a half-baked balance change and the heroes that you play are now completely terrible. You get a forewarning ahead of what's going to be coming in a lower stakes environment where people aren't going to be losing SR, aren't going to be losing something they care about as much as like just winning or losing in quick play. And that might be a way of getting around this problem. Like, that's the only solution I can really think of.
I think that's a good solution. The solution is finding a player base for it. That's the problem. Yeah. And there's no incentive to play on PTR beyond, hey, I'm a YouTuber, I want to look at the changes to make a video, or, well, that's basically it. You know, that is basically it. Like, I don't know why. There can't be any Overwatch players out there that are, like, playing on the PTR now because they want to experience these changes. They don't play on PTR because the queues are over 10 minutes for everybody. And they're not 10 minutes, they're literally 50 minutes plus, and the queue will probably just end because there's nobody on PTR. And even if you did get your mates together to play, it's still a bit of an artificial environment. It's not representative. So I agree with that. I think that's a good idea, like to maybe use quick play. I mean, we do know there is an update coming to the arcade cards where there's going to be more. So maybe they could, like, hey, this is the patch, the pre-patch mode, and people can go in. I mean, why the hell is PTR a different server? Maybe it's just an architecture thing. Why can't it be a different game mode anyway in the game? Just get rid of PTR. Just one of the cards is literally PTR in the arcade. Wouldn't that solve it?
I think I can answer that. Like, if they're having like these engine changes on the back, they can't have it in the actual live game. Like, so there's probably some good reasons why they can't just do that straight away. And like, if they are testing, the thing is, if they are testing like tons of hardware changes, like put that in the patch notes in big bold lettering, saying, yeah, a lot of the changes on this PTR patch are just like engine changes or things that we need to test and see if they work properly. Like, because that's actually exciting when like you hear that, oh, we're changing how the game works in some fundamental way in the background, because it's like, are they adding new ways for like things to actually happen? Are they adding like new stuff that could be for new heroes? Oh, people have found in the PTR patch that, oh, now the game can take this new playstyle. Oh, now we've got like, you can swim in the air. Oh, is there a hero that takes a big ball of water that everyone has to swim around in? Like, there's things that could be exciting in that. So it's like, you're right, it's a problem. Like, the player base, I think that's a really good way of putting it. The problem is getting players playing on the PTR patch. And it's also, if the patch needs players playing it. If it does, get it onto live as soon as possible, but put it in quick play, put it in the arcade, put it somewhere where people will actually click on it and play it. And the other thing that I want to sort of just touch on very quickly is like, would people accept faster balance changes as well if they were like more willing to just have this very rapid pace cycle where they just tweak some numbers, tweak some integers, like you said, go into the spreadsheet and change a couple of numbers around, and just keep on like doing that like almost every 2-3 weeks, just shaking things up ever so slightly, so we don't get these stagnant metas that seem to like almost be the problem. When people say like, oh, the new meta is just as bad as the old one or worse than the old one, it's usually because, well, like Barrier would be tolerable if we were playing it for 2 weeks. Goats would be tolerable if we were playing it for 2 weeks. It'd be new, it'd be interesting, and it'd be kind of exciting for a little while.
And the other argument to that is, it's new and interesting, so that would keep people interested over time. I'm gonna say this, like, I am now becoming that Overwatch player that plays the game, but not as much as I thought I should be playing the game. It's like, we've got roll queue, and like roll queue should be like, oh my god, I'm just going to play the game non-stop. But then it's okay, we've also got a meta that's in this kind of state, and I'm kind of bored of it. Like, it's not like I played it and was like, oh, this is terrible. I mean, I've got like hundreds of hours so far this season, so it's not like I hate it, but it just becomes stale. And I just think as the game gets older, the period of time you can tolerate a stale meta becomes less, and then you kind of need faster changes. So I don't know. Maybe that's something that'll happen in the future. I don't know. Guys, let us know what you think about this in the comments below. PTR, what are your thoughts on it? Do you play on it? How do you think it should be changed? Do you think we should get faster balance changes as well? Guys, I've been Salo, so this is Unit Lost. You can join me. Well, you can follow me. Don't join me. I guess you could join me on Twitter.
You can follow me on Twitter. He's forming a cult. You can join him.
Yeah, join me now. At Stylosa. It's also the same on Instagram, and you can find Josh.
At one_amongst_many on Twitter, and at twitch.tv/oneamongstmanytv.
Absolutely beautiful. So I'm massively jet lagged. I'm going back to bed. Goodbye.
Bye.
Oh, sorry, Toodaloo.